Hey, everybody. Sorry, we're a little late there. Welcome to another episode of the Motor City Metrics podcast here at TigersMLReport.com. I am Roel Castillo. Alongside me is Chris Brown. Just Chris Brown and I this evening. The old show format that was, we did the show alone for what, almost 5 years, 6 years. So,
Long time, yeah.
yeah. So it's no Cam and no Uper this evening, but you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And please rate and review us. It goes a long way. Also, kind of wanted to discuss something real quick before we get to the show. Actually, let me do our sponsor read here by our friends over at. I'm drawing a blank. I know who our sponsor is, but I'm just trying.
Bet Online?
Bet Online, yes. Bet Online is our sponsor. But I'm just trying to find the read because I had it all set, and this is show prep on the fly, and I'm usually a little better prepared than this. But Bet Online, if you've been using Bet Online during the tournament, hopefully double your paycheck, unlike Shohei Ohtani's agent or his interpreter, which we'll get to that a little later. But BetOnline is your place for all things betting. You can bet spring football, so USFL. If you want to get that betting fix, use the promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for 50% welcome deposit bonus. So go to BetOnline, get all your prop bets, all that there, even with baseball. So BetOnline, your number one place online to all things betting. That was not a really good read. I'm not going to lie, but
it's fine.
Yeah. But I just wanted to say a couple of things real quick. So if you're new to the podcast and you wonder why we ask for donations, so as a YouTube, we just started making money on YouTube. We don't correction. Not every month we make money on YouTube. You have to have a certain threshold before you do.
Well, and clarify what do you mean by making money?
Yeah. Okay. So people think because you stream on YouTube, there's like this thing that you make money, but you have to have 1,000 subscribers, which we have. They have a certain amount of views and then all that before you hit. You have to hit over $100 to even get paid on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes sometimes there's good. Don't get me wrong, our shows are pretty consistent, but the more views you have, the more money you make. It's that simple. We start doing shorts and those things, but YouTube takes a good majority of that money out. It is the price of doing business. So as much as we like to do TikTok and other things, and John was instrumental in getting us on YouTube, getting us going on YouTube and those other social media platforms, we're only 4 people. So please consider donating. I do right. If you donate to our PayPal, goes right to us versus the super. I mean, we do get super chat money, but that is also taken out on YouTube as well. So it just all these little things we do, the shirts we sell for Tiger Mining Report, all that, everything goes back into the website. Case in point, site renewal comes up in a couple of weeks. All the site money we make goes towards those kind of operating costs. The operating costs went to going to Erie, the live looks, which I wrote for Tiger Mining Report. So those things all add up and make live, again, I also write for Fansided. I don't make a lot of money doing that. And that just basically keeps. So anyway, just giving you a heads up how behind the sausage and all those things, why we ask for the donations, why it all works that way. So Chris probably can do a lot better explanation. And we don't like asking people for money, but after a while, like I said, I mean, it's when we've applied certain freelance gigs, all those things, stuff adds up after a while.
Yeah, no, obviously anything that people can donate or, contribute, participate, anything like that helps. This is not by any means a lifestyle. I guess it's a lifestyle, but we're not making a living off this by any means. And but we put in enough work at it that we probably should by all rights. But I don't know. That's just one of those things. It helps if people can. If not, I understand. But
there was somebody when I was on Erie. There was a parent of a player. I'm not gonna say who it was, but I was talking about. We're just making small talk, and I was talking about how the day job's been getting a little busier. That's been nice, and work has been progressively. Some of the projects I've been doing getting harder. And he's like, how's the donations coming? And I said, well, it is what it is. It's not a big deal. And it's like, oh, you got to eat, And he kind of tapped me in the stomach, and I'm like, I hate when people do that. Like, just because I'm a little bigger guy, I understand it. But anyway, that's why it just goes into why we do it, and we do it because we love doing this. Don't get me wrong, and we'll continue to do this as long as one of us until one day it's just like, But
yeah.
it is what it is. We just wanted to emphasize a little bit for people who are brand new to the show and why we go about. Like, for example, I was able to buy polos for some of the guys, like the Tiger Mine, and I'm buying Chris's this week. So all these little things go into what we do, and even like I said, us be able to clip for that stuff. So, but those, exactly. Todd with the comment of the night. There are seedy parts of Erie Raj don't need to be staying in. No, you're right. I stay at the. You know what? I'll just give you guys an example. I stay at the Motel 6 in Erie, Pennsylvania. I've never stayed. I stay within my means. I'm not asking to stay at a 5-star hotel. It'd be nice, but you know what? It is what it is.
We've done the Motel 6 half dozen times now, and every time it's fine. They do it. It's nice and clean.
Yeah.
It's all we need. We don't need a bar full of $20 nuts, as it were. We did stay at the other hotel the one time, the crime scene hotel, and that we've talked about that numerous times. That was that ended up a little bit rough, but yeah. So I don't know. I'm glad Raj was able to make it to Erie. I couldn't this time. Hoping to get there later in the year, but it kind of all depends on what happens with my career situation.
Yeah, and it's a good proximity to 190. Absolutely, Todd. But yeah, it does what it's supposed to do. I found a hot dog place there yesterday, Lucky Louie's, and that was an awesome find. Props to our listener up in Canada, Toronto, Corey, who works. He's a color commentator, does boxing commentary. I met him through Twitter a few years ago. He's become a good friend of the show, and he recommended. He said he's coming into town, and he was like, "I'm going to check out this hot dog place." And I looked at where it is. I'm like, "Well, no kidding. It's right down the street from the hotel." And yeah, Lucky Louie's. If you're into good IPAs, good hot dogs, it was one of the best hot dogs I ever had. I had the Yinzer, so it was a pierogi sausage, French onion fried French onion chips, whatever you want to call it, sour cream cheddar, and yeah, it was delicious. It was very delicious, and the pretzels. But anyway, again, donate. Great. There's a donation button. They're in the house. Right there, you can click on it, donate anything you can. If you can, great. Buy a t-shirt, buy one of these t-shirts, goes a long way. Again, anything you can do to support the site, we appreciate it. We are totally independent. We don't work for, if I showed you what I make for Fansided, you'd cringe. So anyway, enough of that. Let's just move on to rain out. So the Tigers were raining out today. Erie was raining out today. Toledo's raining out today. And it looks like that might be the same case tomorrow too. And I forgot, West Michigan too. So Lakeland was the only thing going on today among the Tigers system. And did they end up winning, Chris?
Lakeland won 13-5, I think. It ended up that one got rained out too after 7, or they were in the 7th. Yeah, it got a little out of hand later in the game. That was their starter had a brutal first inning. Lakeland starter walked the first 4 batters he faced, ended up with I think 6 walks or 5 walks, a hit batter, only got 1 out. But they came back and I think they hit 4 home runs, including an absolute bomb by Jose De La Cruz. We've talked before on the minor league side of things. He might have the most raw power in the entire organization. And I still haven't seen a distance on it. Like, it broke StatCast for a little bit, but it was 110 plus miles an hour, and it was 37-degree launch angle. And I was searching, and home runs with those that launch angle and that exit velocity could have gone anywhere between 390 feet and 504 feet. So I don't quite understand how the physics works on all of that, but yeah, it was a bomb. Dom Johnson hit 2 home runs. Clayton Campbell hit another home run. He's got 2 home runs and I think 2 doubles already this year. So the only one with it today, it wasn't. And I are in his club. Here's that home run right here for people watching.
De La Cruz crushes it deep to left. That ball is way out of here. Over the berm.
Yeah,
that's holy crap.
Miguel Cabrera territory. Max Clark did not play today. He had the day off. That was planned. I think they said they were going to playing. He's going to have Sunday off as well. I think just it's part of you see that with the minors. Most guys only play 5 days a week. But yeah, he's still looking to get his swing going. And then I know that's going to be a topic of discussion for the entire year until it happens. But anyway, yeah, it was a rainy day across all of baseball. There was many games canceled, and then there are a couple things that went down. That the Mets blew out the Braves, and we'll talk a little bit more about the Royals and Astros.
Yeah, Clayton Campbell's been off to a really good start, by the way. I was looking at some of his numbers, Chris. It looks like he is finding. It's not just he's not getting cheapies by any stretch of the imagination.
No, he's gone. I think he hit his first home run was the opposite field home run, I think, and this one he pulled, and he's gone. He's using the whole field. It's an interesting player because he plays third base, I think, first base, catcher, DH, and I'm not sure if he's projects well to any of them, honestly. But he's hitting, and it's a fun profile because he's from New Zealand, which I don't believe there's been a big leaguer from New Zealand. I may have to look into that, but
maybe it might be a pitcher. It sounds like maybe a pitcher, but I don't think I want to say that maybe a pitcher. Yeah, I'll have to look that up. But yeah, Max Clark is going to be the topic of the session too. I do want what Todd brings up a good point here. That's a lot of early season Angel Hernandez hate, but for good reasons. I mean, the guy's makes Cuban Americans look. I mean, he makes us look bad. Seriously, what do you like? I don't know what he sees half the time, but anyway, hello to everybody who is welcome in the channel there. Noah, by the way, I did see Paul Skeens last year at Erie, and I think they might schedule if they cancel tomorrow. They're assuming they're going to probably put him in a doubleheader Saturday, right?
Well, yeah, I mean they have. He was supposed to pitch today, right? For against Toledo, and they did. They scheduled a doubleheader for Saturday, and right now I think Quinn Priester is still scheduled to go tomorrow. I don't know if they would just bump Priester the next day. I haven't seen that, so it's possible he could pitch tomorrow in Toledo. It's possible he pitch Saturday. That'll be fun to watch.
That will be a lot of fun to watch, especially because the Indians themselves have former Tiger Willie Peralta on there. I didn't see that. I saw that the other day. But no, the Skeens is the guy's got a lively arm, and I think he's one of those things where I think I'm not trying to say he's gonna be like a shooting comic kind of thing, but I think I have a feeling that based off his arm, based on his velocity, you want to see him before,
He is considered by most to be the best pitching prospect in baseball right now. And you can see why when you watch him pitch. It's pretty ridiculous. So yeah, I think he'll be in the big leagues within the next 2 months easily. He's just gonna build up his arm right now. I think he's probably gonna throw 3-4 inning stops.
Yeah, it's gonna be one of those things where you might be. Is that I'm wondering going forward if we're gonna see more relievers like that with like the 3-inning relievers kind of thing going, where the Tigers are talking about using Wilmer Flores that way. Right now, by the way, totally forgot about this. Good call there, D-Man. Michigan is playing in the Frozen Four against Boston College, I want to say. And the winner of that
sounds right, yeah.
Yeah, and the winner of that gets either Denver or Boston. So the road to the championship is through Boston.
That sounds right,
or Denver, but either way.
Traditional hockey powerhouses out of Boston.
Oh yeah, Denver. Yeah, Denver's kind of I guess they've been powerhouse, but anywho.
Yeah.
But let's take a look around the minors too, because we do have a couple people that are. Max Anderson has been hitting the tar out of the ball too. He's hitting over 500 for sample size, but I've been like that home run you posted yesterday, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
That was opposite field.
It was. I think there was a pretty strong wind blowing out, but still to get it up there in the the opposite field, and it looked pretty effortless. It'll be interesting to see what kind of swing he has, throughout the course of the season. But yeah, he's early on, at least, he does not seem to be struggling with high A pitching in the slightest, which is a good sign to see, right? He's a guy who has to hit because it's kind of a not quite bottom of the scale defense profile, but he's probably second base, first base. So yeah, hitting is good, and he's off to a nice start. So that was, it's fun to see that one for sure.
especially when you need. I mean, this is a guy who led the Big Ten in hitting. So one of the things I was overhearing yesterday was if the Tigers weren't getting a guy that led the league, who led the league and who led the Big Ten in hitting can hit, you'd have to kind of wonder about their draft profile. But yeah, this looks. I mean, very Chris, a little wind driven, but still, it just swing looks pretty good.
Yeah, and he's been getting a number of hits to the opposite field. I think that might be kind of his profile, which is a great way to hit for average for sure. We've seen Justice Bigbie did that, and Brady Allen also hits the opposite field a fair amount and was able to get close to 20 home runs, which is kind of tough. But if he can pull the ball a little bit more, then he'll be very interesting. Probably move up in our prospect rankings if he keeps producing.
Yeah, and Briseño will probably be within the top 10. He's not a top 10, is he?
No, we talked about this before. Like we were relatively early on him, but also relatively
conservative,
cautious, I guess. Yeah, conservative is a way to say. I think he's 18th on our list, but we did that in November, and then he kind of had an awesome spring training and was getting raves. And so far, he's off to a great start. It's no extra base hits yet, although he definitely had one that should have been. He had a 385-foot hit off the top of the wall that Max Clark I apparently thought was going to get caught, or I don't know exactly what happened. Didn't see, but so Max Clark got a really late jump on it and then tried to make it to third. It's one of those like early baseball lessons, right? Like if you screw up, don't compound it by screwing up again. Like just so he got a bad read and then tried to push it because he felt bad about it and got thrown out at third, and that was even worse. But Briseño, I think five walks to 1 strikeout, really low swinging and miss rate. And I've watched all these games, and it seems like there'll be times where it doesn't even seem like he's hitting the ball hard, and then you go look and it's like 105, like every time. He's 95 plus every time. And so if he just starts getting that ball up in the air a little bit more, he's going to hit a bunch of home runs. So definitely exciting prospect there. He's another guy that I've only seen him catch twice now. It doesn't really stand out as being particularly good or bad. And his hands look okay at first. He did have a misplayed a ball, a grounder to him the other day, but that happens. But yeah, definitely a guy that's an up arrow there.
I think that's a difference because one thing I was thinking about is what's the difference between him and Roberto Campos at the same time in Lakeland.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I had to think about that because somebody I was actually talking about that with Jason Beck yesterday. I saw Jason Beck in Erie. We were just making some small talk about that, and I just thought, like, it was a really good question. Like, damn, what is the difference between him and Briseño? Because Campos had the same kind of like profile, right, with a lot of stuff on the ground, right?
Yeah, and Campos hit the ball really hard. The big difference to me is Briseño's plate discipline. His approach is much more advanced than Campos. Campos,
a lot of deep counts too, right?
Yeah, and Briseño will foul off pitches that he gets to and just work, and he's already had like multiple 8-9 pitch at bats this season. And Campos just wasn't that kind of hitter. He had decent plate discipline in low A. I want to say he walked 7-8% of the time and didn't strike out a ton. But we've seen once he's got to West Michigan, it became harder for him to lay off borderline pitches or foul them off, and so he was putting weak contact on breaking balls away and stuff like that. So just the adjustments there, and it's every jump up a level is a new challenge. But I talked before, I think Briseño's approach is too good for the level he's at right now. There's not enough strikes being thrown to really test, because there are some minor concerns. You heard from some people that scouts are a little bit worried that it's more strength over bat speed, which can come back to once you really start finding guys who are pumping 95 plus and putting it where they want to. Guys who don't have that elite bat speed or that even above average bat speed and rely on strength, they can get blown away by that. So that's something we may need to keep an eye out for down the road. For right now, I think everybody's right to be a little bit excited about this kid because they get that combination of hard contact and plate discipline.
And you got to look at it this way too, Chris. One of the things that I would be concerned with is when he's going to get called up. If he gets a call up to high A, let's say it's later in the year, you might see some arms at that point, maybe college draft arms, and kind of perhaps it can go for example, if you get called up, let's say in May or June, that's prime. You still have a lot of those arms that are still not called up to Double A yet.
Mhm.
If he gets called up in like late July, September, August, see that's the thing. Like it really depends to me. I don't know about you, but it depends to me when he's gonna get called up, where he'll get a true challenge like that. Because he also will run into the occasional, I don't know, Lansing lefty or any
Okay,
team that
yeah.
has a junk ball lefty who can throw 85 miles an hour, but just can
Yeah.
place it anywhere.
Yeah, I mean those are unique challenges in their own right. But yeah, that's a good point. That the way seasons work, sometimes it's almost like half seasons, right? And actually the standings are like that, where you may be basically you might get promoted, but you're facing a lot of the same pitchers. I guess the hope is that you know fewer of the bad pitchers get promoted, right? So you're a top 20 percentile hitter in low A, and the top 20 percentile pitchers also join you, but you know, the rest of the pitchers up at high A are better than the 80% of the pitchers you saw in low A, if that makes any sense, So you hope it's a different challenge there, but yeah, it's I would think if he keeps playing the way he is right now, and depending how much they really want him to focus on defense at catcher, uh, I think he'll be up in West Michigan by the midpoint of the season for sure. Just based on what I've seen so far. I mean, he could have. I think I talked about it, he could have 40 walks and 10 strikeouts by that time, which is it's time to move up.
And it really depends too what happens with the Tigers right now with Alfonso and Steven Scott. The reason why I mentioned that too is because it kind of segues into what I saw in Erie. Alfonso with 2 hits on opening night, including a blast to right. And talking to Gabe Alvarez, and just talking overall with the staff in general, that Scott's been a really good addition. He's already been a clubhouse presence in there, and that's a nice mix of having, you have Alfonso being the young guy and Scott being the minor league veteran that allows, I think, Alfonso to really kind of, that home run he hit was a pretty good hit too. And they weren't doing much against Blade Tidwell. Tidwell looked pretty damn good. And he was able to win. He wasn't throwing, like he was pretty under control until later, and then he started getting a little wild. But still, the biggest takeaway that I had from all that was Hugh Lee, and get to see him in person. He, through his interpreter, was talking about how he hunts for fastballs and how he's just trying right now. And he had like about at least, I want to say 3 or 4 at bats during the whole 2 games I saw him where it was like at least 6 or 7 just lengthy at bats, and he was working the count really well. And I thought that he did it, and even on the base pass too, his aggression and just he's a smart player. And I see what the Tigers did a really good job of doing their homework on this guy.
Yeah, he's a different kind of plate discipline guy. Like I don't think he's taken a walk yet, but he's not striking out a ton. And like you said, he's up there battling, and I think that the walks will come. He's one of the few guys that's really being challenged. I think, right? They bumped him up. I didn't think that they would do that, and he's more than holding his own. So that's definitely impressive to see. And he does. I did kind of like the answers he gave, where yeah, he's like you said, he's just hunting fastballs and trying to get himself into accounts where he can get the fastball. And what's interesting about that is that was like one of the main criticisms of him, I think, in Fangraphs, Tigers prospect list was that he had hit something like 190 against fastballs of decent velocity. So I don't know if he's worked on that. He also talked about working to be a little bit more agile, right?
Yeah, correct. He's trying to make his posture better, as a better to when he's running the base pass, which makes kind of sense. And he was working on getting a little leaner because he thought it was getting a little chunky.
Yeah, I mean, he's a thicker kid. I don't know if he's ever going to be super lean, but it's nice. It's an athletic build still. So, yeah, I don't know. I see. We got a whole bunch of questions there on the side. I don't know if we want to answer them one by one.
Yeah. So Deadly Ninja wants to know, is the Tigers trying to teach a system-wide approach to sieve fastball, see a lot of pitches? There's been some, I don't know, I've got more intel about the pitching versus the hitting, but there's been some discussion but I'm not exactly sure what they're doing. So when they come to the plate, but I think it's also depending on the individual and working on exactly what their strengths are.
Yeah, no, I think that they're treating, they have individualized plans for every single player in the system, and I think they're treating swings a lot like they treat like sort of natural pitch movement or spin, things like that. Like they're going to lean into whatever you're good at, and so like Chase Young is he's actually done a fair amount of damage in the air to the opposite field, but he's a pretty dead pull hitter for the most part. So they're not going to make him try to work the middle of the field the way the old development staff might have. And the opposite is with Justice Bigby, right? Where he hits everything to the opposite field, but he hits it really hard. So they want him to pull the ball a little bit more, but they're not going to, tell him, oh, you have to do this. This is the way we need to hit. So I think they're just leaning into guys' particular tendencies. I do think that in terms of the approach, I do think they want guys to work at bats and, hunt the pitches that they can drive. But that I don't think that's, I don't know if I'm sure they have specific trade secret types of stuff that they're doing to try to encourage that, but that's not. I mean, that's the approach everybody wants, right? It's every team at baseball. Like, hey, wait for your pitch, drive, don't expand the zone. There's not a whole lot more to hitting, I don't think.
Yeah, especially because the one thing about Erie's offense this year, it's going to be either feast or famine. The first game was 2-0, and they didn't really get anything. It was just they strung together, took advantage of some wild pitches, and then yesterday they scored only 3 runs and they had 11 hits, only scored 3 runs and lost.
Mm-hmm.
So there was just a lot of times where they're going to struggle with runners in scoring position. But overall, I think that another takeaway that I had too was as far as like Chris Myers goes is concerned too. If he struggles a little bit, you're gonna have to wonder where the pop is gonna come from. Lee is gonna be a good example of that, but Holton, there's a couple times he scored the ball yesterday pretty well, and he's still there. But now you have Corey Joyce now in Andrew Navigato in Toledo with all the injuries, and we'll get to Toledo here in a second. But that kind of kills any type of like getting a consistent bat when something goes. If they have to couple another infielder from West Michigan,
yeah. Well, you're hoping that Brady Allen, he's off to a rough start. He's struggling in Double-A. That's not unusual. We saw the same sort of thing with some other players. But he was a guy that offered some power, and he certainly has enough power to hit a bunch of home runs in Erie. He just needs to make more contact. He got his first hit the other day, but been a lot of strikeouts so far. Be waiting on that. I agree. Holton has never been a big power guy. He's got power, but he's more on base and line drives. And then, Luis Santana, who just got called up, went on an absolute bender at the end of last year, pulling the ball off the wall and left. But that's not a guy you really want to rely on for power. So I think you're right. Gage Workman has plenty of power, but again, the hitting ability. So they're just going to have to, I think they may have to be a little bit more aggressive on the base paths this year. A lot of more steals, more small ball, if you will. I know they don't really want, they don't do that in the organization as much, but they may have to if they want to win some games this year.
And that's kind of what they happened too. They had a lot of runners in motion. There was a couple steals there by Lee. So you're going to see more of that probably going forward with Erie because Gabe Alvarez knows that they're kind of limited on what they have. So let's go into our first segment of the day, and that is our Inside the Numbers. By the way, we did get a donation just now, so thank you so much to David. Thank you. We appreciate the donation. Much appreciated. Thank you. So, Chris, what is your insider number this week?
In this one, it's a little bit of a hat tip to Cameron, who's been the one kind of tweeting this out from the Motor City Metrics account, unless it was you. It's 12, and that is the defensive run save for the Tigers as a team this year, which ranks first in baseball. It's early, obviously, and defensive stats are always a little bit funky, but they're one of 3 teams in double digits, I believe, or maybe just 2. And it's not really that hard to believe right now. They've just been playing really solid defense, and I wasn't the only one talking about it the other day that they won that game against Pittsburgh basically because their defense kept them in it. They had 2 really good catches from Matt Vierling in the outfield. Riley Green stole a home run. Colt Keith with an awesome whirling throw to second base. Javi Baez made a great diving stop. They were catching the ball, and they've been doing it all year. And you can see right now, for individual players, Riley Green is +4 defensive run save right now, which is tied for the second most in all of baseball. Carson Kelly, Parker Meadows, Colt Keith, and Matt Vierling are all +2, and Baez and Ibanez are +1. The only negatives they have right now are McKinstry, Rogers, Olsen, and Torkelson are all -1. So doing a really good job of run prevention, as it were. And so that's nice to see.
Nice. By the way, the Wings tied up the game right now, and I'm not sure the playoff indications of this. Are they still in the playoff race?
If they are, I think that the win basically went out. They're playing the Penguins right now, which is nice. But and by the way, the worst team in defensive run saved is the Chicago Cubs at -10. So anyway, really? I know there's some other sports going on right now. Apparently, it's a real hockey night in America, as it were.
Yeah. By the way, I think about one of my favorite themes of all time involves hockey. It's one of those things where when you hear it as a kid, when I don't know if you ever hear a song or like just something that, when you hear this, I mean, especially I really think that I hate that sometimes stupid. This song, this whole theme to me is it's the most iconic, one of the most iconic pieces of sports to me ever. And for some people who don't live around the state of Michigan or didn't grow up with this, may not recognize it.
I can't hear it very well.
What?
I can't hear it very well. I don't know if it's going down the line or not.
It's the Molson Hockey Night in Canada theme, and I got the wrong one. Maybe that would help if I had the correct one. The Molson Hockey Night in Canada theme song is one of the best. It's one of my favorites of all time. It's just a fantastic song. I don't get too carried away with hockey. That and also the NHL '94 music too. Fantastic.
Well, and it was nice if you were if you didn't have cable like I did when I was growing up. We got four channels, right? You got 2, 4, 7, and 9, wasn't it? Was that CBC?
Just joined. I hear you stumbling and trying to talk about hockey music. See ya. Bye. Sorry, I was trying to do two things at once. Failed you there.
Detroit Tiger fan.
Yeah.
But
cool comment, bro.
Yeah. Was it Channel 9 with CBC? Is that right? Yeah, that's what I thought. So, yeah. Roger Doucet. Doucet has yeah. So anyway, what's your inside the number?
Yeah, what's my inside number? Sorry, I was recovering from Detroit Tiger fan burning me so badly because I was multitasking badly. Yeah, I admittedly stumbled, jackass. All right, so my inside number is 183 and 142 and 40.7. So that is the losing bets of nearly 183 million, winning bets of more than 142 million, and 40.7 million in losses. And that is from Shohei Ohtani's interpreter.
Interpreter, please. Yeah, the money values are absolutely staggering here. It's again, it like strains credulity that somehow nobody noticed this. Nobody noticed that he was moving hundreds of millions of dollars in bets. And they were, what did they say? They said there were 19,000 bets over a span of fewer than 800 days. It was basically one bet every hour for 2+ years. The guy had a problem. And I know there are a lot of conspiracy theories about like, hey, Ohtani must have been in on this, right? But like, I don't see a situation where the federal government, because this is a federal indictment, isn't it? It's like
correct. Yeah.
I don't think they would particularly care about protecting Ohtani, right? Yeah. Well, we'll be a little bit on. Javi Baez comment. Yeah, I just it's just remarkable that this happened, and they've got evidence that he was calling up and pretending to be Ohtani, and just kind of a cautionary tale here, because one thing I did see was that none of his agencies, none of Ohtani's agencies or his accountants or anything, none of those companies had somebody who spoke Japanese. So there was nobody there to like double check and say, hey, is this actually him? Is this right? Like they just didn't have somebody to speak Japanese. So just a failure on multiple levels.
And you know what? So I mean, he was his training partner, his business partner, his chauffeur, but like that was his best friend. And Otani's kind of like a reclusive kind of guy, and um, so he took advantage of the whole situation. I mean, it's just that to me, that's what that looks like on the surface. Again, whether Otani bet on himself or not, I mean, I don't know. Like to me, it doesn't. The fact
They
that
said
people
it.
already the conspiracy that Otani was gambling on himself is, I mean, come on.
Yeah, there was um, they said in the the statement that came out or whatever that there doesn't appear to be any evidence that baseball was bet on, which is kind of wild. You would think that this dude, he's such a degenerate gambler that he would have bet on baseball too, but somehow he knew not to. I don't know. Um, but it's a pastime in America is to build people up right and then revel when they fall. That's something I think you've talked about a little bit, and then
Or when
we
people stumble over the words like they just did now, like myself.
well or you but they build you up and then they like to see you fail, and
Yeah.
then what's better than that is the redemption story. That's the final arc of that. They're like, oh, he was on top of the mountain and then smuggled 16 orphans across the border and went to prison for 8 years, and he's come back and now he's back climbing mountains again. That's just what we like as people. So there are a lot of people I think who want to see Ohtani involved in this just because he gets so much praise, and there are other people. I don't know. I think it's a huge bummer for baseball if he was involved in this, and so far, at least the evidence is pointing that he's not. But I don't know. It is awfully fishy with so much money moving around.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where I think that to me, what reeks about this whole thing is that you're looking at people like I'm glad that people are or the government's recognizing that he is a victim of this whole thing, but the automatically assume, well, why would you gamble so much money? There's no way. How does he? If you trust somebody like that, why not? That to me is how much money those guys or Otani's made through endorsements. It's not like he has like I don't know, like it's just to make the assumption that I mean we were joking around about it, but at the back of my mind going, I don't just see Otani just betting on himself that much. You have to have a real, but
You,
I don't know, man.
and what's wild about it to me, and I don't know. I mean, who knows? Like when they traveled to states where sports betting is legal. I mean, I'm sure they could track all this down, but like if Otani had been based out of Michigan, which would have been nice for Tigers fans, of course. I wonder if this ever would have been found out, right? Because this is because they busted the illegal bookie, right? The illegal sports betting operation in California that's not legal yet. So I don't know. It's just kind of wild, but yeah, I know Ohtani is continuing to play baseball, and I don't think he's off to a terribly strong start, but I guess I don't blame him after what's going on. Also, he's got a wife now, so she's probably like, "Why did you let him take all that money?" Theoretically.
No, in theory though, yeah, I'm glad though. As Samuel said in the chat, the feds cleared him, so it's good enough for me. Not everything is a conspiracy, or I mean, because everything you remember in this country, if it's a conspiracy, then you add the word "gate" at the end of it. So, because that's what we do. It's so lazy. Since Watergate was a hotel, for whatever reason, when you have a conspiracy, it's fill in the blank gate. So Ohtani gate or what, like it just seems like to be like the lazy discourse to do with things. So
yeah, and as I said, Ohtani is struggling to a 333 average with 3 home runs right now. He's got a 171 WRC plus. So I guess it doesn't seem to be bothering him too much. So never mind.
Yeah.
He's just
meanwhile, fine. I mean, you talk about historic, and we're going to talk about the Royals and Guardians offense here. The Dodgers offense is not too bad not too badly themselves.
Yeah.
So I find it kind of strange how it goes to show as athletes how we can really or not we, but how athletes can focus and put deep, what's the word I'm looking for? Decompartmentalize things a little bit.
Yeah. decompartmentalize. Yeah, just or compartmentalize, I guess, is what they're doing.
that's
They're like
yeah.
putting
Thank
his
you.
private
Yeah.
life. He doesn't. I don't know. We talked about it before. Like I think that Ohtani might just be a huge baseball weirdo who only thinks about baseball at all times and lets everybody else handle everything for him. And he, unfortunately, apparently was way too trusting of the wrong kind of guy, which sucks.
Yeah, and but there's an article too how some senators looking into how Ohtani is trying to avoid paying taxes in California. Well, anybody living in California is trying to avoid paying taxes because I guess taxes are ridiculous.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure every millionaire in California is trying to avoid paying the taxes there, and every politician who wants to make a name for himself or herself is goes after somebody famous for it, because that's how you build up your credibility and your Q rating.
Well, it makes a lot of sense.
Rating.
Well, it makes sense because there's a lot of, interesting enough, in Montana, not to get too sidetracked real quick, but there's a lot of celebrities that took over. So, for example, in Bozeman, Montana, the only reason I know is because for my day job, the average Taco Bell employee, like the average income to live in Bozeman now, I think it's Bozeman, $90,000. Like they have to pay Taco Bell employees like somewhere in the neighborhood of like $25, $30 an hour to stay competitive, because all the millionaires live up there and they've kind of compounded themselves in there, and they've driven up the cost of like the tax value so insanely high. It's crazy.
I've heard similar things about Bentonville, Arkansas. Not necessarily celebrities, but because that's where
Walmart?
Because of Walmart, that like Bentonville itself is like Austin, Texas, almost, where it's like super like freaky and liberal, and the rest of Arkansas is like, what are those guys doing down there? But I don't know. I've never been down there, so what do I know?
Yeah. There's it's another conversation for another day. Let's go inside the good, the bad, the ugly. All right. And I like what Samuel said here. He said, if we think about society in general too, conspiracy theories often pay people that accept what they're told as sheep. I argue that believing everything is a conspiracy is low-hanging fruit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there have been a great many movies and books about conspiracy theories and how you get caught in this weird web and start believing everything, and like, oh, this is there's even an episode of The Simpsons where all the adults start drinking a nerve tonic or whatever, or some sort of tonic that makes them want to have sex. And so the kids are all wondering why the adults are like going home at 5 PM, closing the doors and everything. And so they think they're daytime vampires and they're controlled by the moon people. It's conspiracies thrive when there's not enough information. And now I guess they thrive when there's too much information. But anyway, good, bad, and ugly.
Yeah. All right. So what is your good and bad ugly this week?
Let's see. My good. We touched on this a little bit earlier. Is offense in the AL Central, and specifically Kansas City and Cleveland, which I did not see coming this year. They currently rank 6th and 7th in baseball in runs scored. And the Royals are actually tied for 3rd in F4. The Guardians are 9th, but both two top 10 teams that I didn't really expect much of anything out of. Bobby Witt is off to a tremendous start. He's the only guy ahead of Riley Green in defensive run saved. He's got 5 already. And he hit his 4th home run of the year today while hitting 360. So, I mean, he's looking like that potential MVP that he could be. MJ Melendez is off to a good start. Michael Garcia is off to a good start. Vinny Pasquantino is off to a good start. So, yeah, things are going right in Kansas City right now. And a little bit more on that later. The Cleveland, not quite as impressive in terms of the individual players, but they're like top 4 are all performing well. Stephen Kwan, Naylor, Jose Ramirez, Andres Jimenez, all playing well. Kwan already has 2 home runs this year. Which is kind of wild because he had like 5 last year and I think 6 the year before. He's not a big home run guy. So it could be one of those things where he's on pace for 20 home runs and he finishes with 4. But certainly off to a good start in Cleveland. And yeah, not great for the Tigers, but you got to point it out when you can. My bad, and I don't really want to do this, but it's Javi Baez. Currently the 2nd worst qualified hitter in terms of WRC plus in baseball at -12. One of just 3 qualified hitters out of 194 who has yet to take a walk. He's also one of 5 qualified hitters, again, out of 194, with an ISO of 0, meaning he doesn't have an extra base hit yet. The other players on that list of no extra base hits are Alejandro Kirk, Will Brennan, Willie Castro, and Nick Castellanos. So, yeah, it's been a rough one for Javi Baez. I don't really have to tell Tigers fans that, but sometimes when the stats are there, you got to talk about them. On the plus side, he does have 3 steals already. When he's getting on base, it's like he's like a guaranteed runner now. And he's playing quality defense, but yeah, it's bad at the plate, and it's again, like I said, I don't have to tell Tigers fans that. And my ugly, and this is kind of going back to the Royals, is and I hate to do this to a local kid, but it's Hunter Brown. Hunter Brown from St. Clair Shores, went to Wayne State, drafted by the Houston Astros in the 5th round in 2019. They turned him into a top 100 prospect. You know, obviously he did some of that himself, and came up late in 2022 and looked good. And he looked really good to start last year. But then the wheels have just completely fallen off, and just historically bad outing today. 2/3 of an inning, 11 hits, and 9 runs and 1 walk. I think I saw he's the first player ever to give up 11 hits without completing an inning, something like that. At least the first starter. And beyond that, since July 1st of last year, he has the highest ERA among all pitchers with 70+ innings at 6.9, and that was before today. If you add today, it's 7.86. So I don't know what they're going to do with Hunter Brown. I don't know if he's injured, if they're going to send him to the minors, if he's got to move to the bullpen. But it's been real ugly for him. And like I said, it's kind of a bummer for a local kid. But I know the Astros are off to a rough start.
Todd has a good question. Honestly, how long will the Baez experience continue? And then Deadly Ninja Bees. Remember the Mendoza line? What would be the Baez line? I mean, it's here's the thing too. You have Ryan Kreidler, who's on the IL. Still have no word on what's happening with Eddie Leonard. The Tigers are pretty much stuck with him because they don't really have another option to go with. I mean, unless you get creative and want to move things around, but you really, I mean, Kreidler now has, especially going to have, I think his thumb, right? Was this his thumb in this case?
His finger. I don't know which finger it was. Yeah, and I want to say the injury report it was with Leonard was an oblique. Does that sound right?
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, we talked about it before, man. He's owed 4 more years at $26 million a year, $24 million a year, $24 million a year, right? Like, I think the Tigers would happily part ways with him, but it's so much money, and for whatever reason, teams just don't eat that much money. They just don't. They don't. I can't recall a team doing that for more than 2 years for any player. Maybe they could try to work out some ridiculous trade, but I don't think anybody else would take Javi Baez. It's their only hope is to get his bat going somehow to where it's acceptable. And we're going on 2+ years of it not being that level, but I don't really know if there's a solution other than that.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing too is if the Tigers were to say, talk about doing a trade, what are you going to trade for? I mean, you really would have to give up to get something like, if you're looking at a 2-war player, you would have to get something up of value in the Tigers pitching depth right now. Even with Sir Gibson Long, which there's some bad news about forearm issues. Even with that, so I mean, the Tigers still have enough to where the pitching depth, I don't think is going to too much of a concern, but they have to get creative with this. At some point you have to make a decision. You have to make a decision because they're not giving no straight. Like you're talking about the quote unquote new swing and everything. Great. You think you generate a walker? Well, I can't even do that. I mean, come on.
No, I mean, I think fans will never do this because he's making so much money, but you just have to treat Javi Baez like he was Adam Everett when the Tigers had him, right? Where you're hoping for a couple doubles that bounce down the line and above average defense, and just pretend like he's a guy making, $1 million a year or something, because he's going to be around. He may bat 8th, he may bat 9th every day, but he's going to play regularly because teams just won't get rid of a guy like that. They won't eat all that salary. I don't know what. I mean, I guess I understand you don't want to just waste all that money, but you feel like you're wasting it anyway. But I think the main thing is they don't want to be paying him $90+ million or $80 million or whatever it is to have him go somewhere else and get figured out and be productive. That would make them feel bad. As silly as that sounds. So I don't know.
Yeah, and here's the thing too, that Samuel makes up a good point too. That they upset a lot of fans. I think the Tigers did not spend in the offseason. But when I went to the end of the year presser and Harris basically said, "We're not," I'm paraphrasing, pretty much was saying, "Don't expect us to spend a lot." Or he said it in a way it was just like, okay, well, they're not going to spend a lot. Then I knew that the Tigers were just going to be like, well, Tiger fans are going to go and sit there and go, "Oh, great, we have all this money coming off the books." Doesn't mean anything. And he had a piece of audio. He was on with Russo this week, Chris Russo, and I have to find the audio. I'll have to, if I find it. I think I posted it in our chat, but I'm not going to struggle through this because I don't want to get heckled on again by some jackass.
But yeah, he basically said, like, he was asked if, like, they're, if he thinks they can win the Central, right? And he was like, "Hey, it was something like, hey, we're not really trying."
Yeah,
like, it was along those lines. It wasn't. He didn't say it like that, but it was like, we're trying to win every game. We're trying to put it like.
Well, right now we're worried about Pittsburgh. Right now, that's what he was saying.
Well, it's like he wants to keep expectations as low as possible and then perhaps outperform expectations. But there's only so long you can do that, right? Where you can manage the expectations of fans before they revolt and turn on you. And I don't know. I mean, I think it's too early to get like super upset with him for that. I do think that he just wants to be. We talked about it with Crystal the other day. Like, the White Sox looked like they had promise, and then it just completely crashed and burned. And I don't know if he wants to. Scott Harris is trying to be super cautious about that and avoid that sort of fall back to earth by going for it too soon. But it is frustrating to hear stuff like this.
All right, let me know if everybody can hear it while I'm about to play the chat.
Yeah, I don't know if expectations internally are all that different this year. We have to stay focused on the step right in front of us. Candidly, this organization has been through some rough patches in recent years, and we haven't really earned the right to talk about playoff berths yet. We've earned the right to try to beat the Pirates today, and so that's what we focus on internally. I think the middle of our lineup is populated by young hitters, and with youth comes variance and unpredictability. But I think we got to keep giving these guys opportunities. We got to keep helping them make adjustments to find their way and be consistent every night. And we got to keep leaning on the veterans we brought in this offseason, guys like Mark Canha and Gio Urshela, who are both off to really big starts at the plate, but also really helping mentor some of our young hitters in the clubhouse. I think if we stay focused on the here and now, we stay focused on putting together long stretches of competitive baseball, the rest of those expectations are going to take care of themselves.
Yeah. Well, Chris, I don't think you're trying to say, or correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you're trying to say that they're not trying, right? Is that because that's not what?
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess I was saying that like he's trying to set a very low bar for expectations. Basically saying, we don't suddenly think that because we're off to a good start, we don't suddenly think we're going to win 100 games this year. And basically along those lines, fans shouldn't think that either, which is fine. That's a totally normal thing to say, but then there's like, we gotta, leaning on these veterans we went out and got. And it's like, oh, okay. Mark Canha's a solid player. Urshela's okay. It's the team comes down to the young guys. He knows that. I think everybody knows that. And it's just taken these guys a little while. I believe that Riley Green will turn it around. Not even turn around. He's going to get going really well soon. And I think Colt Keith will too. And then Meadows, who knows what you're going to get there. It's been a rough start for him. He's walking at least, but he has one of the lowest expected batting averages in baseball. He's not making hard contact whatsoever, which is unfortunate. And then Torkelson, I don't want to get yelled at myself. I remember the negative review we got where all I did was complain about Torkelson was the review. But by the way, feel free to leave a review. We're fine with them. We enjoyed the feedback. But yeah, I mean, Torque just looks bad right now. It's just pop-ups, not working long at bats, just bad. And the team's going to look rough and kind of feel like they don't have much ceiling if those key bats in the middle of the order aren't doing anything.
And look, I think it's fair to be objective about this team, and I think we've been more than objective. I think that if we're quote unquote negative about the team, I try really hard not to be a cynical asshole the whole time about this team. When they're doing good, they're doing good. When they're doing bad, we're gonna call them out the way it is. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it is frustrating for fans. Like, I can understand fans to a certain extent why they would get mad at, for example, when I do my fan voice, I'm mocking a fan. I'm not mocking fans for at all for getting angry. You should be mad that your starting shortstop his skills are diminishing in front of your eyes, and there's nothing that can be bad about it. I'm not, again, 7-4, Stan. I'm not complaining about staying 7-4. They're playing the Twins this weekend. It is a good remedy for them. Be that as it may, look, the Tigers are over 500, and sometimes you look on social media, it's, you know, like it is very, I say this, it's so hard to be, it's very easy to be negative. And we try to find that, you know, like, we try to find the positive in everything we do and all that. But if the process is not working and there's no results, what are we supposed to do then? That's my point. Is like there's a lack right now as it stands. I have nothing against what Scott Harris is doing right now, but at the same time, just admit that what you're doing, like you're just trying to build. Like if you're trying to do like what the Guardians are doing, where you're just doing it by development and spending occasionally or barely at all, that's fine. But there's no identity. Like that's the way. If that's the way they're building it, so be it. I don't have a problem with it. And I think the Tigers are still trying to find their identity right now. So
yeah, it's just I don't know, it's a strange position to be in because they've won 7 games out of 11. That's great. Everybody's super excited about that. But the fans watch the games and they go, okay, well this offense still isn't doing anything. The Tigers are scoring fewer runs per game than Miami, and Miami is what?
Yeah,
1-11, something like that. 2-11. I haven't checked what's the standings. Where are we? 2-11, and they've scored more runs than the Tigers. So this could easily go the other way. You have to give credit to the pitching, obviously, and the defense, as we talked about. I think people, and it's something I think Cameron brought up. I think, or maybe it was you. You know, if the Tigers were winning these games 12-10 in 7-4, I think fans would be much happier. I think there's just something deflating about watching a team that can't seem to hit, particularly because it's been a bad offense for the last 6-7 years, right? Like that's been the main issue with the Tigers. They had plenty of bad pitching along the way too, but it's just been forever since they've had good hitters.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think the team, if people weren't seeing torque pop out or ground outs, I think it'd be a little different scenario. That's all it is to it. And if the Tigers are going to be known for their defense and pitching, great. And hopefully they'll win some games. But then there'll be stretches where it's going to be brutal to watch. And that's just as simple as that. So go ahead, Chris.
Well, and all it takes is 1 or 2 bad starts to really kind of screw up your pitching for a full week, right? If you have to dip into your bullpen early in games 2 days in a row, that can hurt you. That can cause you, the next start, you try to ride your starter a little longer, and it can cause things to fall apart pretty quickly. So you just wish there was a little bit more consistency with the offense.
Yeah.
Consistent hitting. They have been consistent so far in that they haven't been scoring.
So the good and bad and the ugly this was going to be kind of multifaceted. So this week, by the way, I want to give a good word farewell to Steven Strasburg, who had to retire because of arm injury. So just wanted to give him a tip of the cap. And I mean, he went out during the World Series as one of his last starts, right? It was like just.
I think that, I don't know if he came. Did he ever start again? I thought he tried a couple outings.
I think maybe tried a couple. Yeah, I don't know if he did that, but I just wanted to give him, tip of the cap to him for what he did in a short period of time. Like, you ever wonder if he was stay healthy or not, but I just want to give him, and the Nationals are paying his entire contract too. So By the way, speaking of real quick sidebar, Jordan Montgomery's leaving Scott Boras.
Yeah, I saw that.
Scott Boras. All right.
Yes, Strasburg made eight more starts after that World Series over the next 3 seasons. But yeah, he was awesome that 2019 season, awesome in the playoffs, and then the injuries, which is a bummer. One of the most hyped prospects of all time, and he didn't quite live up to it the way like LeBron James did in basketball, but he certainly had an awesome career, and at times was one of the most dominant pitchers in baseball.
So my good this week involves the Erie Seawolves until yesterday. 35 innings, 1 run over. I mean, they've had 2 shots in 4 games. Their pitching's been really good. They have been getting some really good bullpen. Joel Pellegro, who I saw pitch yesterday, who has been kind of a minor league. I want to say he was a minor league free agent pickup, but he's bounced around a couple organizations. 97, 98, pretty good fastball. Get some good late movement to it, but just want to give props to that because that's saying something. You have one of probably the better rotations in the organization. You had Ty Madden throw out 4 scoreless, hitless innings in his first start of the year, and they went out on the home opener and shut him out. A pretty good Binghamton team as well. Also, part of the good is the Royals at 2.3 WAR for the pitching staff. The Kansas City Royals, Chris. You want to take a guess on what their FIP is?
If they've already got 2.3, I don't know. It's probably under 3.
Just over 3.
Just over 3.
3.04. Just 3.04. Wow. But they have a K per 9 of 7.92. So it's not. I don't know if it's gonna be sustainable, but it's a good headline for the early part of the season. My bet this week is David Bernard, who we saw the Tigers melt down against the Tigers on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. And he's been pretty much automatic against the Tigers, but this year he's off to a rough start. ERA 12.46, and just could not find a strike zone against the Tigers. This guy was, I remember last year against Detroit, the Tigers couldn't do anything against him, and allowed that rally to come back. But hopefully, for a Pirates bullpen too, that definitely needs. You have Chapman back there for a reason, but this is a guy, a hometown guy, grew up in nearby Easton, Pennsylvania. Hopefully he'll figure it out. And when he's right, he's good.
Yeah, I think he's a multi-time All-Star, right? I mean, sometimes with the Pirates haven't been that great that you just pick the reliever, but yeah, I think he had an injury in spring training and just hasn't come back right. It's not that he's getting hit that hard. He was just completely wild against the Tigers. He walked several guys, hit somebody. Yeah, he's been rough so far. That's for sure. I know. Have him on my fantasy team. I also have Chapman though, so I'm okay.
By the way, the part also to keep this theme going with the NL Central, the Cardinals attendance drops to a historic low there in the first homestand. They drew the smallest today. The night game with Sonny Gray pitching. I believe it was Sonny Gray's debut. It drew the smallest attendance for a night game in the history of Busch Stadium, the third, which is the third version of the stadium.
What? I wonder what's going on there with the best fans in baseball.
Oh yeah, the smartest fans of baseball, the most knowledgeable fans of baseball. They'll tell you that firsthand.
Yeah, I wonder, but no, honestly, I wonder what's going on there.
But you know what? Though, here's the thing.
Upset with last year's subpar season.
But here's the thing, Chris. The reported attendance number was 31,000.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we can see a picture of the actual attendance.
Yeah, it's 31,000. The lowest for a Cardinals night game in nearly 2 decades. It's the 4th lowest in stadium history. So a sold out crowd usually sell 47. So yeah, they're showing that there's no way that 30,000 fans showed up for that. That is not the Cardinal way. And there it is, Tyler. Thank you. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you. That is fantastic.
Yeah, that's weird. I wonder, and it was unseasonably cold. I don't know, but yeah, that seems a little bit odd. Bad omens.
Very bad omens. And my ugly this week, well, you could go from the A's. You could talk about what I just mentioned with Scott Boras. Yeah, I'm not really thinking it's ugly for Jordan Montgomery. He's probably like, I should have listened to my gut instincts a long time ago and not listened to Scott Boras. But my ugly this week, excuse me, my ugly this week has been the rash of injuries to the Tigers. right now with Kreidler. You have Leonard. You're kind of looking at options right now, and Buddy Kennedy has been hitting the ball pretty well, so that's a good thing. He's on the 40-man roster, so not to be pessimistic. So let's see what happens with Buddy Kennedy and see if you might see some Buddy Kennedy at some point, but that is a concern. And we should have mentioned this. How did we not mention this earlier? Wenzel Perez. I mean, we talked about this on the minor league podcast, but Wenzel Perez getting the call up, and I did hear that the Tigers are not going to really try to use him in the outfield at all either.
In the outfield?
So
he's just up there. Interesting. I figured he'd get
pinch hit bench spot. Like they're trying to avoid him using him in the field at all, from what I heard.
I figured that he would at least get maybe a start in the doubleheader, but yeah, I mean that doesn't shock me. I think he's got potential in the outfield, but he's still learning the position, right? And so the reads and reactions aren't terribly good. He's got makeup speed. He's got a good arm from out there. He's just a really frustrating player because of the defensive issues there, because he's got the athletic ability and the arm strength to play anywhere on the field, but the whatever neurons aren't firing properly to allow him to glove the ball properly and then make an accurate throw. It's a real bummer because it's a nice offensive player. He has a good approach. He takes walks. He's got gap power. He can put it over the fence every now and then. He'll steal you bases. So, but I don't know. When they brought up Kerry Carpenter, they were kind of worried about his defense too in the outfield, and they were able to get that ironed out relatively quickly to where he's not a huge drain. So I could see them doing that too. George Lombard's a really good coach, and so I think that they'll hopefully, they're working with Perez every day to get better in the outfield.
And why Winfield over Malloy? Because Malloy's not on the 40-man roster. That's why.
Yep.
They would have to make a move to add Malloy to the roster. So,
and it probably, it may have been Perez no matter what after the Abanez injury, because Leonard was not off to a particularly strong start. He had like 15 strikeouts, 12 strikeouts, and like 30 at bats or something like that. And it may have been Kreidler had he not hurt his hand. That probably would have made the most sense, as for an infielder right-handed bat. But yeah, I mean, it is kind of funny. We talk about the strength of the farm system heading into this year. It's one of the best farm systems we could think of. And Parker Meadows is now graduated, so he doesn't count anymore. Colt Keith, it's going to be another couple of weeks, but he'll be out of there. And then now you've got Perez up in the big leagues. I don't know if he's going to be up here enough to lose his eligibility. And Kreidler and Leonard hurt, and suddenly the farm system it's getting slightly thinner. But we'll see. And Gibson Long with the forearm tightness, that's never. He was coming back from a hamstring issue, right? And pitched well, 4 innings, I think, 4 innings in Lakeland. Looked good.
I look pretty good too.
He looked good, but if there's that you hope it's just kind of regular soreness from pitching, getting out there and competing. But forearm soreness is never a great sign for pitchers, unfortunately. So we'll hold out hope there. But I mean, we had him in our top 10 in the system, so that would, this is why you need to keep restocking prospects no matter what. The Dodgers do it, even though they you have draft like 28th every year.
Wave after wave after wave.
Yep.
It's funny. I was looking through my Baseball America edition, and I realized that Andy Bejas is still in their system. I mean, I feel like I'm watching him for like 6 years now.
Yeah.
I know it's like just for a while. I felt like I was watching at Great Lakes for 3 years practically, but
yeah,
it's weird. He's in the system.
Yeah, and then they've got Vargas is down in AAA for him now, right? He's been with Lux back. I think that he's mostly in AAA, and Betts playing shortstop. But yeah, I don't know. It helps to have depth, that's for sure. And the Tigers, the one area that we were kind of concerned about is shortstop, right? They still haven't. They don't really have any. You hope that McGonigal can play shortstop, but it's a little bit iffy. I think he seems more like a second baseman, right? We'll see. And Peyton Graham is back playing, but he's off to a slow start, and so there's just not really much shortstop depth there in the system.
And then you see Jackson Holliday, who made his major league debut last night, and the guy is a natural shortstop. He's playing second, and I'm telling you, I watched him play a little bit in Norfolk last year, and I came away going, all right, I get it. I get why people think he is special. I mean, got OBP of just his numbers in the minors for his age. Utterly ridiculous. And, Chris, what scares me about this is that Baltimore can put 3 or 4 infielders deep. That's how good Baltimore is. Here's the thing. That's what's frustrating. Baltimore has had some really good drafts but they're also are able to get some guys who can play in the infield. It's not DH types that are athletic and can play their positions well. And Tigers, Cole Keefe has been a very good plus defender. Like we've been talking about this. Like he's a lot better than what people give him credit for on the defensive side of the ball. But the rest of the infield, you gotta look around and go. You hope that Young can develop into that. But right now, it's if we're being realistic right now, Lee at second's not. Lee feels his position well.
How you, Lee? Yep.
Yeah, how you, Lee? Yeah.
Yeah. Max Anderson is hitting a little bit. We don't know, the defense. I don't know. But yeah, it's the Orioles. That's the sort of thing that you feel like is kind of missing from the Tigers. And I don't know what the Orioles know that the Tigers don't. The Tigers have a bunch of interesting infielders, but not the way that the Orioles do. And Orioles just have interesting hitters everywhere. And I was just thinking about it, and this kind of goes back a little bit to the Max Clark, and we talked about this privately, where Holiday hit his way out of low A ball in like 2 weeks. It was very clear, very quickly that he was too good of a hitter to advance for that. And you're kind of hoping for that sort of thing from Max Clark, and it just doesn't appear to be the case. His swing is a little bit of a mess right now. He's not really driving the ball with any authority. He seems to be late on every fastball. You hope that this is a guy that was heavily scouted for a long time and consensus top 5 pick in the draft. You hope that the scouts saw the raw tools there and Max Clark can make the adjustments. At the same time, sometimes the entire industry does miss because if you go back 2 years, the number 1 prospect in the draft to both Baseball America and MLB Pipeline was not Jackson Holiday. It was Drew Jones. And Drew Jones has been injured a ton, but he's the exact same age as Jackson Holiday, and he's in low A ball right now, striking out 50% of the time, while Jackson Holiday is in the big leagues. So one is a kind of an extreme case on one side, one's extreme in the other one, but sometimes it does happen. You do miss on draft picks, and you just gotta, trust that Garco and the player development staff can get Max Clark going in the right direction soon enough, and I think they will. I don't think it's a Drew Jones situation, but you want to see results because that's we don't need to rehash it, even though I'm sure we will another 1,000 times. There was another pretty good player on the board there, and they went with Max Clark, and we know why, but you'd like to see him prove why,
Yeah, no, you're right. And it's, again, Young's going to probably work out at third. I'm not disputing it. It's just you have to bring out all the variables to it. And as he's learning a new position, and he is learning a new position. He's played second all his life until recently. So,
and Young is off to a really nice start. He needs to, it's early, but he needs to cut down the strikeouts a little bit. I think he's got 17 in 11 games, which is a 36% strikeout rate. And I think he's better than that. And he's been driving the ball. So somebody asked earlier, is he going to come up this year? It wouldn't shock me at all if he does. Kind of just depends on how well Urshela keeps playing, right? And if Colt Keith keeps holding his own, because if not, then I don't know if I don't think they would just cut Urshela or move him. Maybe if something happens to Baez and they need Urshela at shortstop, but we'll see. We'll see down the road. We've already seen that these injuries can cause changes to plans relatively quickly.
As far as waiting to see, like, for example, I was getting some grief because I said wait 40 games for this team till you make up your mind about this team, and I wait 40 games for this team to strike out as much as they do. Well, they're, again, overall record. But as far as Max Clark goes, look, I'm gonna give the kid as much time as he needs.
Absolutely.
It's just I don't think there should be a declaration of 3 days from now he should be. No, it doesn't matter. This is his first season out of high school. And if he's doing, like, if we're gonna, I'm trying to think of, like, so if you think about, like, Derek Hill, for example, like, kind of, because he was drafted at the center fielder, drafted with some hype out of high school.
Good.
There was there was no I know there's a difference between being third pick overall. What was Hill, like 18th or something to that effect?
I want to say 20th.
Yeah. I'm gonna give Clark until and then if he's still behind in the summertime, he still looks like this. And yeah, you can say what you will, but I'm not gonna write the kid off in April. I just don't understand. I know people have seen me when the draft night, but yeah.
No, and it's a fine line we're trying to walk here, because there are there's a big group of clowns who are gonna complain about Max Clark till the sun dies, right? Just because they want to. And we're not trying to. I'm not trying to denigrate him at all. He's not off to a great start, and the main issue I have is it doesn't look great. Like, the swing does not look good to me. It's not like he's getting unlucky, hitting line drives. It's a lot of weak ground balls and barely poking fastballs to the opposite field. Doesn't mean that he won't turn it around very quickly. He's a very talented kid with a lot of tools, and I'm rooting for that. Obviously, just trying to let people know, okay, right now it doesn't look that great. Doesn't mean he can't. I've talked about this before. I did not like Jace Young's swing at all. That first year after they drafted him, we saw him in West Michigan. It was like, oh boy, it didn't seem to be much bat speed. He was hitting weak fly balls the opposite field, and turns out, what, pro ball's hard, and he was dealing with some injury issues, and it was a long season for him, and he's figured things out in the last year. So yeah, certainly not saying anything negative about Max Clark's future, just saying right now it doesn't look great.
Yeah. And again, prospect development, not linear. So, by the way, if everybody was curious of what Max is, or excuse me, what Marcelo Meyer's doing right now in AA, so far in 13 plate appearances as of right now, Fangraphs, batting 364, 385, 455. So
140 WRC plus, and again, 13 plate appearances. So
yep.
But yeah, wouldn't shock me at all if he bounces back and looks really good.
Yeah,
he was a highly touted kid.
Exactly. So, like I said, if you go by every at bat early April for prospects, it's just give time.
Yeah, and we talked about it before. Even guys that we talked, Torkelson not doing anything at the big league level. He hit 31 home runs last year. People are hoping and trusting that he's going to find his way. Justice Bigby off to a really bad start in Toledo. Lots of strikeouts, swinging and missing, and a lot of breaking balls. Was not the kind of hitter he was last year. I don't think things have fundamentally changed. Just not seeing the ball well right now. It happens. So yeah, not writing anybody off.
I mean, look at Dom Johnson. Dom Johnson, I mean, he had a career day today. Out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere. What do you say?
And I think 4 for 4 today, triple short of the cycle. It was the second time we saw Gage Workman do that once, where he needed a triple for the cycle and instead just hit a home run.
Yeah.
Dom Johnson did the same thing. But yeah, I don't know. But then Dom Johnson, I think he came up to West Michigan last year, and I want to say batted like $150 for a not insignificant amount of time. So you hope that he's made some changes. He's a guy that's interesting. He's very fast and has some raw power there, but second year guy in low A.
What do you do? So the Tigers and Twins, if you're looking at what's going to happen this weekend, what the schedule looks like. So there's going to be a doubleheader on Saturday, and the pitching matchups were announced, I believe. I saw them earlier.
Maeda versus Ryan in one of them, and then the second one is assumed to be Matt Manning. I'm not sure who the Twins are.
Manning's supposed to get it's supposed to be Manning that gets the ball. Or Flaherty is supposed to get he gets the ball on Sunday for the Sunday start. So game 2 would be, it would be Manning's supposed to get the start for that. So by the way, broadcasting note too, Greg Gagne will be on the broadcast this weekend. So on the radio side of things, Dan Dickerson takes over the TV side. So just a heads up for that. And Chris and I will probably be out there working in a working capacity on Saturday. So we'll be out there. If you're out this weekend, we'll let us know where you're at, and we'll stop by and say hello. I'll be there for. Are you be there for both games, Chris, or one?
I'm going to try. I put in for the credentials. I don't think I've got the response yet. I put them in for Saturday and Sunday. So
okay, sweet, yeah. So we'll be down there on Saturday. Hope to see you out there. And then the regular minor league podcast with Brandon Day will be joining us on Monday, and we'll be recapping week 3. Wow, it's very weird to say it's already week 3. So
Yeah. And
But
then
yeah.
we're less than a month away from the Complex League starting, which you remember they bumped it up this year. It's I think May
Oh, yeah,
4th
that's right.
starts. So getting hot and heavy soon.
Yeah,
And then
and
we haven't even really dug into the draft. The Tigers have the 10th pick, right? 11th
yeah.
pick?
So that's I was gonna say our draft coverage is gonna probably start kicking off here shortly. So we have to start. I should start paying attention a little bit more to the draft. But the next couple weeks are gonna be crazy. But thanks so much for everybody listening. Thank you for a couple donations did come in. We really appreciate it. And
Thank you,
like, and thanks to that Twitter guy. It really made me made my night. Made me realize, like, yes, I stutter and put over my words. Happens. Like to see you do it. I end up looking him up on Twitter. So I know I'm sorry. I just when people just come in and go, I see you. Like, what are you doing? Like, stop being a jackass. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like if you don't like what I say, whatever. That's fine. He's your own. Anyway. Serenity now. All right. We'll see you. We'll see you. We'll talk to you Monday. And if you're out down at the ballpark in Comerica, let us know. And just shoot us on Twitter. You can find me at Rajcast Baseball, Chris Brown 0914. Until next week, or until Monday, the minor league update. I think we might be doing some on Sunday too, but we'll see. We'll see you. Have a good night, everybody.